masters, masters, masters of change.
Hello there. Welcome to Masters of Change. My name is Kim Kunio and I'm the Head of Music at the Australian National University, and I'm here in discussion with my good friend Charlie Hogg. And Charlie is the Director of the Brahma Kumaris in Australia. Hello again, Charlie.
Yes, hello again, Kim.
Well, we've been going for a while now in these discussions about spirituality, and we're finishing off a very interesting theme that we've been doing for 5 episodes already, and this is the last, and it's about communication. And so why is communication important to you, Charlie?
You know, I think I'm a soul, and when I'm in this physical world, I'm just constantly communicating with myself, with others, with the divine, with the material world. We're connecting, and in a way, connection is communication. So it's so important that I sort of have an awareness of how to communicate, and I'm also have an awareness of how to listen or receive from others too. Communication is a two-way flow.
Now, one of the things that's come up in our recent discussions is that we can really evolve in our communications, you know, and maybe I could use the term transform. So I'd like to ask you a personal question. What transformations do you want to see in yourself and others?
You know, I suppose at the heart of it, Kim, is I see the most powerful form of communication is the sort of the energy of awareness or the mind. And I just love it when I hold the highest feelings for others, because I see that communication is absolutely powerful. Absolutely powerful. When you make a decision to see the good in another, see the value in another, and hold that, and I think it has a massive influence. And I've really often seen you can have 2 types of communication. You know, where you really communicate with somebody and you see their faults, you know, and you get caught up in that. Or you can have another type of communication where you really look beyond their faults, and it has a completely different effect.
Charlie, it seems to me to do this, it's almost like we need to go deep within ourselves and change some of the coding of our brains and have more beautiful and benevolent feelings. So could I ask you about how this could be achieved?
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it in a contemporary lingo, the recoding of myself. Because I think that, you know, when there's a problem, we often tell people, you're like this, you've done this, and it seems to just worsen communication. But I think that when I take the responsibility and sort of realize that if I'm on the highest vibration, it's going to influence everything around me. So if I have a regular spiritual practice, and it's almost like physical fitness. When you're physically fit, you know, you can manage a lot. And if you're spiritually fit, and each morning you keep upgrading the awareness in your mind by, you know, lovingly seeing weaknesses I need to change, attitudes I need to shift, tweaking, so that my energy, the vibe people get is a high frequency as a result maybe of my relationship with God, so that when I come in touch with people, the feeling they get is uplifting. And then really, I think life becomes easy. It's not a battle, because when you have benevolent feelings for others, almost 95% of the time they will reciprocate. But if I have a sort of a mixed feeling, most of the time we'll get a mixed feeling in return. And then that becomes our reality. Some people just feel relationships are just difficult. They're all difficult. All people are a problem. Because when you enter it with that mindset, that's what you do get back. But if you enter it with that elevated mindset, you sort of tend to receive an elevated mind. You withdraw it from other people.
There's a couple of very nice points in here, Charlie. One is that we can actually do this almost like a fitness fanatic would do a physical discipline.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing to do. It's not like it's hard. But just as the person who wants to get physically fit will go to the gym, we can go to the gym.
Yes.
And it seems to me that gym is sitting on something like this and having a bit of yoga. Would that be right?
That's right, Kim. And the yoga is the yoga of the mind, because you and I have been having so many conversations, we keep coming back that the seed of so much is this connection with God, isn't it? Because it's almost like that vibration, it sort of ups the ante, the vibration within me, and then that just does its own magic on me and my relationships too. And that just seems to be, you can sit down but do the yoga of the mind, the Raj Yoga, the highest union of the mind with God. And that, I don't know, my own experience is how that just settles me. You have a sense of contentment. And almost automatically, when you feel better about yourself, you offer more benevolent feelings to people around you, and even the ones that before you used to find a bit challenging.
So what you're saying is if we want to transform the world, we'd better start by transforming ourselves, and we'd also better not expect them to fit into whatever we think is right.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the great mysteries, is we just send off the good feelings and then something cooks up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about something I think which is one of the ultimate transformations, the word forgiveness.
Yeah.
It seems like one of the ultimate things that can happen with a benevolent spiritual attitude is that we can forgive others and they can forgive us.
Well, I think that, Kim, is the ultimate freedom, isn't it? To forgive another frees me from a lot of pain, actually. A stalemate of egos, all this sort of stuff that goes on in life. It just absolutely frees me from that type of stuckness, if there is such a word. Where we just get so stuck in, you've done this, you've been like this, and yet who is affected is me. I just take myself right back into, I think, a very confused state of falsehood in one sense, when I keep projecting onto other people rather than taking responsibility.
Charlie, sometimes I like to tell you a short story, and I've got it's a little personal short story. A number of years ago, silly Kim was ice skating in the Sydney winter, and I fell over and actually broke my hip quite badly. And I was, it was very bad. It was shattered. I had to have a pin and a plate put in, and I'm generally a very physically active fellow, and the doctor said, look, you might never get your full range of movement back. I'm very sorry to tell you that. And I must say I was very, I took it as like a form of hurt. Inside, I have this attachment, even though I see myself as a soul. I love having a fluid body that can do whatever I want. And then a number of months later in meditation, I realised that the transformation I needed to do was just to allow flexibility in the body and the mind. And it's not saying that this will happen for everyone. Very quickly, the flexibility of my body came back when I allowed my mind to be more flexible. So I wanted to ask you about this mind-body relationship, how it works and what the mind can really transform, because it seems to me it's like our superpower if we can only commit to it.
It's incredible, isn't it, Kim? I think that there's a lot of research into that mind-body relationship. I find it absolutely fascinating because really your consciousness is the mind, and when you think that energy is constantly radiating to your organs. And I think when we get particularly negative about things, it's obviously going to affect the material form. Once I was in South Africa, actually, and I was at a school, and I was talking to the staff, and I was talking about the power of the mind, and the principal said, I notice that when one of my teachers has a hard day in the classroom, he or she comes to me and they're a bit down, and a day or so later they'll be away with the flu or a cold. And we had such an interesting discussion because he saw that when the mood goes down, you're more susceptible, and that's actually science, that when your immunity is down, when you feel unhappy, your immunity goes right down and you're more susceptible. So this incredibly intimate relationship. There's another friend of ours who, was an editor of one of Britain's biggest newspapers, the medical editor. He wrote a book called Will to Be Well, and it opens at the first thing, you know how they often write a little bit of an essence. It says, the greatest factor in good health is happiness. And he goes on to say we spend so much time eating well, that's good, exercising, that's good, sleeping enough, but the real factor that builds immunity and resilience in your even physical self is well-being, is happiness, and spirituality provides that. And I've actually seen that, a bit like you're saying, that when you're happy, even your mindset makes your body flexible, or like you almost healed yourself because you took on the challenge of what this physical difficulty was creating for you.
So Charlie, you're saying something quite beautiful, that we can enter into this world without an expectation and something will happen.
Yeah.
And isn't it beautiful, everyone, to think that we don't have to control things,
Yeah.
that the ultimate transformation is an act of trust. So that is my next question. How do we trust?
I think that what happens, Kim, is that things are coming up in the future. We want a result. So we become control freaks, We try to manipulate life so that I get the result. That's always that usually doesn't work, very occasionally. But I think what the spiritual life does is that this relationship with myself and then the relationship with the divine, I start to trust myself. I really begin to sort of know who I am. I become more consistent. And I think a big thing about trust is I begin to walk my talk. I can see I'm living what I believe. I trust myself. If I tell people one thing in my life is something absolutely different, how will people trust me? How will I trust myself? And benevolence is a big thing too, because I think, how can I really love and trust myself if I see myself putting people down and gossiping and deep down you disapprove. I've experienced this myself. If you're not speaking well or doing things, deep down you know that's not how you want to be. And so I think that the whole journey of trust begins by spiritually, I feel the trust from God, I begin to trust myself, and then I'm a bit more flexible because I feel secure and I know life means that I make the effort and what happens I accept. This is wisdom because you cannot control outcomes. There's all these karmic forces working. And when you make the effort, and then what happens is what happens.
This is very, very noble. It's a noble intention, isn't it, to say that we can trust ourselves over time to do the right thing, and then eventually we'll trust others.
Yeah.
Because how could we trust someone else unless we can trust ourselves to do the right thing?
Well, I wonder what you feel, Kim, because I often feel when people say I don't trust them, often I think maybe you don't trust yourself. Yes. The first step when you say, I'll never trust this person. Because Daddy Prakashmani, who was the head of the Brahma Kumaris, she once said to a whole group of us, I trust everyone. And someone said, how can you do that? And she said, I trust everybody. I invest trust. And she said, when you invest trust, people feel that's something so special. They can feel that you're investing that. They want to step into that space of being trustworthy.
Yes.
It's so beautiful.
I think this is, if we talk about transformations, this is one of the great transformations, isn't it? To trust ourselves and others. Now, I wanted to quote something to you, and it's an old Indian mantra that you will have heard, and anyone who's Indian here will know this mantra. Oma Satoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead me from unreal to real, darkness to light, immortality and peace in this life. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Do you think this is possible in our day and age, Charlie?
I absolutely do, Kim. And really the aim of spiritual life is to step out of the darkness into my light, step out of the peacelessness into my peace, because that is actually who I really am. The darkness and the peacelessness is a contrived state through loss of self-awareness, simply that. I mean, if we look at our world now, 7.8 billion human beings, I would say the majority believe there's something more than a body. I read in Australia, 80% of people believe there's something more than a physical body. But we don't know what that soul, that spirit, that atma, the psyche, we're not sure what it is. But when I think you get a clarity that actually I always exist, I take on a body, death is nothing more than me progressing. Once I sort of build up an infrastructure of truth in my life, I come into the light, I come back into the light. And then when I come back into the light, I will naturally spread it, more by who I am. And then people will even ask you, well, why are you peaceful and other things? Why don't you fear things that other people maybe do or feel insecure? It's not about feeling superior at all. In fact, it's the opposite. It's just that... And I think what's happening at the moment in the world, a lot of people seeing the world are choosing to step back into the light and into peace. It does take a bit of effort. It does take a little bit of lifestyle change, but that's what the signalling is of our time. A huge signal from the world. We've got to step back into a different consciousness.
You're really saying to us, Charlie, that every day, in every way, we have a choice. This is the amazing thing about the human mind.
Yeah.
We can choose to walk into the light or into the darkness at every single juncture.
Yeah.
And one thing I love about that mantra is this choice. Do I want to believe that I am mortal or immortal?
Yeah.
And I know you've shared with me, Charlie, some of your experiences about really thinking about immortality.
Yeah.
Could I ask you to share that with us?
Kim, on my journey into not just knowing and believing, but trying to experience who I am, I've done experiments over months. What I found on the spiritual journey, if you try to do too many things, you never see progress. But if you take on one thing, I've done months where I would focus on being eternal. And I found the whole fear, the millions of fears we all seem to have less and less power over me when I realize I always exist. And as I've practiced being immortal, if I can say even like non-physical, that's been absolutely astounding too, because I found that when I really feel it, the question I ask is, I don't just chant it, I'm immortal, I'm immortal. I keep saying, well, how does it feel? How does it feel to be a non-physical seed that's sitting up in the front of the brain and acting through this body? And what I found that when I feel I'm non-physical, it's like I feel uninfluenced by the physical world. It's like you are present and contributing but detached. And you're not influenced by all the stuff going on around you. And it's such an incredible place to be. And I think if you can step into a benevolent feelings in that space, it's just such a powerful thing where you realize really that this is a play. It is a drama. We souls are really actors. I'm an immortal actor that's taken on a human form. And because we've forgotten it, it's changed the entire culture of the planet. Every institution and belief system has been influenced by thinking we're mortal beings. Even though most cultures will say, oh, I believe I'm a soul or a spirit, they don't experience it. So hence this massive fear of death. And I feel our mortality is influenced every institution. The way societies are organized, the way we do everything is influenced by our sense of mortality and our fear of death.
Charlie, you're saying something incredible to me, because if we even think about caring for our planet, if we were sure we would be here for time immemorial, would we allow it to go to the state it's gone into?
That's such a beautiful comment, isn't it? We'd never do it because of the generations following us.
Yes. And if we thought, this person that I might be mistreating, I might see them 100, 1,000, 100,000 times more. Would I want to treat them like that?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic, deeply transformative thing that even though we've talked about going from darkness to light, if we could take on one massive concept, it's this concept to say that if I'm really to believe that I'm a soul, I will not die. Isn't that radical?
Yeah.
To say that I really am eternal, I will not die, and on that level, the greatest suffering that people say everyone will experience, I will not experience.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It is. And you know, Kim, my sort of understanding is that there was a period in our human history, the Golden Age, the Silver Age, Satyug, Tretayug, a real period of history in Bharat, in India, where people were really lived in the awareness of their own immortality. So death was nothing. They just understood. It's just like a snake sheds a skin, or it's a natural part of human life. And I feel that the more I'm on the spiritual journey and I explore, not just believe, but really explore the depth of who I am as a soul, I'm eternal, immortal, non-physical. I think it's my whole perception of existence. Sometimes I use the example, it's like when I'm body conscious, I'm on the ground floor, my perception of life is like fight and, react. But the more I become a soul, it's like you go to the first floor, the second floor, the third floor, and your whole perception is completely different. Because I begin to see that, you begin to see that my actions now are creating my future in the next life even, and my actions that are what I'm experiencing now is the result of stuff. So if I feel oppressed or I'm in a difficult situation, I need to learn how to do it differently so I don't create that future for myself. These are huge discussions, and I think we're about to finish the episode, but maybe we can have them more in the future.
Charlie, I'm going to ask you for something slightly different because we're running just a little bit late. Could we have a transformation in silence to finish our... So we're going to say goodbye to you now. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. One of our many experiments is to say, let's always try things slightly differently. So we're just going to give you the loving gaze, Charlie and I, before we finish.
Okay.
change.